I'm too tall. Howdy, my name is Nonat, and today I felt like recording standing up. So, this isn't gonna be the regular, I just kind of felt like standing, and the only way I can do it standing is as far back against the wall as I can, because I can only move my camera that far back, and if I stand up at my full height, my head gets cut off. So we're gonna do this, I'm just gonna be squatting, we're gonna be hanging out, popping a squat. I'm here today to answer one of your Pathfinder questions. It's a common question that I've seen come up a lot, and it recently came up in my Pathfinder questions channel in the Known@Once Discord server. Shadowclaw420 asks, what are the rules as written rulings on illusions? Rules as written, illusions are honestly super simple, but it's more of a case-by-case basis. There's not a lot of overarching rules that affect all illusions. First off, it's important to distinguish that not all illusions are the same. Illusion is an entire school of magic that covers everything from invisibility to mirror image. What I'm going to be explaining here is the rules on visual illusions, which are usually the most confusing. You know the ones I'm talking about: illusory creature, illusory object, those kind of spells. The ones that create visual effects so convincing, people think they're real. There are some simple rules that apply to all spells like this, namely how to disbelieve them, but their individual effects are really distinct and explained in their spell descriptions. But disbelieving a visual illusion always works the same way. You take the seek action and roll a perception check against the caster's spell DC. Should you beat the DC to disbelieve it, interestingly, the object doesn't disappear completely because the effect is still there. However, the object becomes hazy and indistinct, so much so that the book actually recommends creatures on the other side of the effect still being concealed even if you've disbelieved the object between you two. Let's look at an example. Hallucinatory terrain creates a 50-foot burst of realistic warped terrain. Every creature moving through this terrain treats it as difficult terrain. Now, any creature that touches this terrain or uses the seek action to scan it can make a perception check to disbelieve the hallucinatory terrain.
It's warped terrain, you dingbat!
Should they succeed, they can ignore it and move through it completely normally without worrying about difficult terrain. That's it. Rules as written. Simple as that. But here's where it gets more obscure and much more up to the GM's discretion. There's no written rules for this, unfortunately, but if the party has seen their wizard cast hallucinatory terrain before, then chances are they already know it's fake. I wouldn't let them disbelieve instantaneously, but I would give them a far lower DC to disbelieve it. Sure, a really, really low perception check could still trick your brain into thinking it's real. You may know it's not real, but your brain may still have a sort of reaction like, I don't want to touch that rock that's in the way. Even though you know you can move through it, your brain still sees the rock. So a really low perception check could still fail to disbelieve it. But if you saw the spell cast, or you've seen your wizard cast it multiple times in the past, it should be way easier to disbelieve it. In a similar vein, the enemies should have ways of gaining this lower DC as well. For example, if you're fighting 5 goblins and 4 of them fail and start wading through the difficult terrain, but one of them succeeds and starts sprinting through unimpeded, literally ignoring and moving through the difficult terrain, the other 4 goblins might start to catch on. Additionally, if this goblin that succeeded yells back, "It's not real, it's not real!" then chances are these other 4 goblins should have a lowered DC to disbelieve the terrain. If they see their friend ignoring it and he's yelling that it's not real, the DC should not be as high as when it was first cast. The second part of the question is incredibly interesting. Can the character interact with an object even if they saw it cast and appear in front of them? The example they gave is if you see a wall of stone appear in front of you, but you don't take the seek action to disbelieve it and just use a stride action to try to move through it, what happens? Well, the answer to that depends on the level of the spell cast. If illusory object, which is what I assume is being used to make this wall, is used to cast this wall at first level, then nothing will happen. You will move directly through it because illusory objects at first level do not have any kind of impact. They simply appear to look correct. However, if illusory object was cast at second level or higher, objects summoned with it suddenly, quote, feel right to touch. If the spell is heightened to this level or higher, and you just try to run straight through it, then yes, you will collide with the wall and suffer the appropriate consequences. This is because even though the wall isn't real, the magic is powerful enough to make your brain and senses think it's real. In reality, you didn't hit anything, but your brain and all of your senses just assumed you ran headfirst into the wall and collapsed backwards on the ground in a bloody heap. In reality, you just hurt yourself by running into nothing, because the magic was powerful enough to warp your senses. The final point I'm going to touch on is even more interesting and was brought up by Tranamo in the same Discord channel. If you cast an illusory object to make a wall appear over a pit, can you walk across it? Unfortunately, there's no written rules for this, and it is completely up to the GM's discretion. But here's how I would run it. The group comes to the pit and has to figure out a way over it, and the wizard happens to have illusory object level 2 prepared. With the entire party watching, they cast it over the pit. Now the wizard cannot cross this. The wizard is the one who cast it. They know without a shadow of a doubt that that bridge over the pit is not real. Additionally, the rest of the party just watched the wizard cast the spell, so they're probably already a little wary. I would then run this one of two ways. The first option is the wizard makes a deception check to the rest of the party to convince them that he just cast a spell to summon a perfectly functioning bridge. If he succeeded this and nobody doubted him, they could cross completely unimpeded, completely normally as though it were a real bridge. The wizard would still be screwed and couldn't cross the bridge, but everyone else could. The other way I would run this is if the party just tries to cross it anyway, I would require all of them to make perception checks to disbelieve it. Even if they don't want to disbelieve the illusion, when you touch something, you have to make a perception check to try. So in this case, passing their perception check against the spell DC would actually result in them falling through down the pit, which if one person fell through, I would shoot the DC down for the other party members. Everyone would have to make me even more perception checks, and likely if one person fell through, everyone would instantly disbelieve the illusion and everyone would fall through, potentially to their death. This is actually what makes the Bard focus cantrip House of Imaginary Walls so powerful. House of Imaginary Walls can be used to make a 10-foot by 10-foot square invisible solid wall anywhere. Sure, anyone who disbelieves it can ignore the wall and move through it completely, but it includes this line of text. You and your allies can voluntarily believe that the wall exists and continue to treat it as though it were solid. You can't just voluntarily believe a normal illusion spell, but House of Imaginary Walls specifically allows you and your allies to do just that. So if you used House of Imaginary Walls to create a bridge, everyone could voluntarily believe it's there and cross no problem. If you're just using the illusory object spell, things are gonna get dicey really fast. That's it for this Pathfinder questions. There's definitely more I want to cover, but I think I'd rather handle them in one-off format like this. It lets me go a bit more in depth, it's a little bit easier on me, and leaves me a lot of ammunition for future videos. If you'd like to ask a question and possibly get it answered, then join the Discord. There's a link right in the description, and you can ask any questions you'd like in the Pathfinder Questions channel of the Known at One's Discord server. Who knows, I might just get around to making a full video answering your question. And hey, did you know I have a Patreon as well? It is the single most effective way to support the channel. There's a link in the description, and I'd say keep your eyes peeled on that Patreon for a while. I've got some really cool changes on their way. I don't know when they'll happen, but they're coming soon. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and until next time, no nat ones. Oh my word, I don't need to squat anymore.